Hey everyone, it's Josh Dorkin from BiggerPockets.com here with Loc Rao from sunny Southern California. Loc can be found on BiggerPockets at BiggerPockets.com/users/solid returns. Loc, what's up, man? It's good to see you again.
Yeah, same here. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure, man. It's my pleasure. So you're down in sunny SoCal working the note scene, huh?
That's correct.
Excellent, excellent. So tell us what got you started? How'd you get going in the note business?
Well, basically, back at the top of the real estate market, '06, '07, I really couldn't find anything that I wanted to put my money into in terms of real estate, because that's what I had done prior. And so basically I simply started with small loans to friends and family.
Okay.
And these were just real basic IOUs. And so of course once I started doing these, I wanted to kind of learn a little bit more about how to better secure my loans.
Okay.
And once I started reading up on it, I learned about collateral and the different types of collateral. And then of course I then learned about, I ultimately stumbled upon the secondary note market. And once I kind of started reading more and more on that and started getting involved in some more transactions, I became really comfortable with the process. And once the real estate market kind of came back down a little bit, I had some opportunities to jump back in. But once I was able to weigh out, my experiences both in real estate and with real estate paper,
yeah,
I just felt that real estate paper was a much easier way for someone like me to go.
Gotcha. I gotcha. All right. So real estate paper, we're talking about notes, cash flows, mortgages, essentially secondary mortgage notes. Yeah. They all describe the same thing.
Yeah, pretty much, except the big distinction that I make is that almost all the notes that I have ever purchased are all private party originations. They are not bank originations.
Okay.
Banks aren't going to deal with someone like me.
Gotcha.
They're going to deal with institutions and other banks that will buy, hundreds if not thousands of loans from each other at one time packaged. I'm just looking for individual notes that I can scrutinize every aspect of the deal.
Gotcha. All right, so I'm out at a bar and I run into this guy Loc, and he's like, I'm buying notes and making money doing this, and I think to myself, wow, this sounds interesting. What next? How does it work? Explain to the average Joe how exactly a mortgage note works. How does an investor like yourself actually buy these notes? How did these deals happen? What exactly is this all about?
Okay, so a real classic example is going to be, let's just use the grandpa example. So grandpa sells his house to, for example, you, Josh, okay?
Sure.
And instead of having you go to a bank to cash him out, to get a loan and cash him out, he basically says, hey, I'll draw up a promissory note and security agreement, whatever it is, whether it's a mortgage, a trust deed, based on the state you're in. And basically, you would then promise to pay your grandpa monthly payments on a certain amount that he is lending you,
okay,
at a certain interest rate. So you know that if it's fixed, you would say, hey, for the next 20 years, you're going to pay me $1,000 a month, and you just start counting down the payments.
Okay.
So on a 20-year note, it would be 240 payments, and every single month you are paying your grandpa that $1,000.
Gotcha.
So what ends up happening is that not in all seller finance cases, but in some cases, and those are the ones that I want to find, grandpa has something that comes up, whether it's a business opportunity, another real estate deal, maybe a medical emergency, or maybe he just doesn't want to deal with the cash payments anymore. Maybe he just wants his lump sum and move on with his life.
Yeah.
And let's say you, Josh, cannot refi and, pay him off. Okay? So what an investor like me would do is I would approach Grandpa and say, hey, listen, you've got 180 payments left of $1,000 a month. The current unpaid balance based on a 7% interest rate would, let's just say, for example, it's $120,000.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because of the way time value of money works, I'm not going to give you $120,000 for that note, but what I will give you is, let's say, for example, $95,000 for that note.
Gotcha.
And so if my $95,000 collects 180 payments of $1,000 over those 180 months, then I can calculate my yield.
Right.
And we know that because I bought it at a discount, it's going to be higher than the face rate of 7%.
Gotcha. Why is Grandpa going to sell you the note for $95,000 at the discount? What's going to convince him to let it go for that number? And then as an investor, what's the typical discount that you're looking for?
Okay, so first of all, why is he going to let it go at that price? Well, the reason he's going to let it go at that price is because I will hopefully have explained to him the concept of time value of money, and that essentially, no one's going to pay him face value for that note. And of course, I'll encourage him to shop it around.
Sure.
And see what the market will bear. But I basically tell people I'm not here to lowball you or try to broker the note, turn it around. I'm here to basically make an offer. You accept it. We go through due diligence, and we'll fund and we'll close and fund.
Yeah.
And it'll be a done deal.
Gotcha.
Now, in terms of what type of discounts we're talking about,
yep.
It's kind of hard to say. There's really no easy answer. But basically, by staying on top of the market, subscribing to newsletters, I kind of have a feel as to what the discounts are at any given time.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, paper is essentially graded. You've got A paper, B paper, C paper.
Sure.
And basically, the longer all note investors are looking for a certain yield. And based on the duration of the remaining duration of the note,
yeah,
that discount might be 10% of unpaid balance. It might be 50% of unpaid balance.
Gotcha.
It just depends on how long the note has left on it. So a note that only has 24 months left on it might not have to be discounted too hard to get to a really desirable yield.
Gotcha.
On the other hand, if you're talking about a privately originated 30-year mortgage that's got 28 years left, that note seller is going to have to take a really big hit just because, the payments that you'll be receiving next year, maybe in 3 years from now, won't be discounted so hard. But, a payment that you're not going to receive for 28 more years, those payments get discounted tremendously.
Yeah, absolutely. What's going to make the difference between A, B, and C grades? What's going to determine the different gradings of
the difference is going to be the two biggest factors in today's market are going to be equity and credit.
Okay.
So equity is going to come in the form of a down payment. Or the seasoning on the paper. So if you've got a 10-year note that's been seasoned 6 years, there's going to be there should be plenty of equity in the deal. On the other hand, if you've got a freshly created note, but the payers did come in with, say, 40 or 50% down,
yeah,
there's plenty of equity there.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm seeing a lot of seller finance deals being offered. And those seller finance deals will eventually turn into, or at least a portion of them will turn into, hey, I need to sell this note for cash.
Yeah.
But the problem is that a lot of these seller finance offers, the mistake they're making is that they're trying to lure buyers in by offering 5% down gets you into this house, and
Sure.
that's going to create a problem. You're basically going to trim down significantly the number of potential buyers
Right.
for that paper.
Gotcha. What percentage would you say, if you know this, what percentage of mortgages are seller finance notes? How big is the market?
The market itself is quite big. According to the paper source, which is one of the newsletters, it's approximately an 800 million to 1.2 billion dollar industry.
Okay.
Annually.
It's not bad. Fair enough.
And it's hard to know what's really going on out there because there are a lot of what are called institutional investors.
Yeah.
So I don't really deal with those people.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of have my own niche market that I go after.
Sure.
But there's plenty of seller finance deals going on out there. It's been around forever.
Yeah. Where so you're out there, you're scooping up these notes, you're buying them. Besides newsletters and websites, is it primarily an industry where it's really who you know and all about the networking? Is that essentially where people are going to find the bulk of these quality deals? Or are they going to find them in newspapers?
I don't know about the newspaper in today's day and age.
Yeah.
I know that there are several websites that offer note listings.
Yeah.
But I find that they all have problems inherently. But I do, I mean, to be honest, I do scout those sites and I just kind of comb through everything and see if I can find that one note that everyone else seems to pass over.
Right.
For whatever reason. But really, my sourcing is through networking.
Yeah.
Specifically with brokers who broker notes and other investors. Basically, the investors that I work with are people who will basically buy an underpriced property from a bank or in a short sale situation or from a distressed seller situation.
Right.
They'll fix it up, turn around and sell it, offering owner financing.
Yep.
Take a certain down payment, and then carry the paper back. And then what they'll do is immediately turn around and sell me that paper. They get to realize their profit. I get to make the yields that I want.
Gotcha.
And it's a complete win-win. They can go try to find that next house to flip, and I'm just laying back collecting payments.
That's a beautiful tactic. Now, where are you collecting these payments? I know you're not just putting the money in your checking account or your savings. Are we doing some kind of retirement type of collection?
Yeah. No. I actually wrote a blog article on your site regarding snowballing your money, and basically what I am doing at this point is I am trying to put my best deals into my self-directed Roth IRA.
Gotcha.
So the idea is that if I can grow it to a 7 or 8 figure account, hopefully by the time I'm 59, then that would be a really nice thing.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Now, I'm guessing most people who have a Roth IRA probably have stocks and bonds in there, but mortgages, but notes, paper, I'm not certain that any old company will allow that. Is that the case, or are there specific firms that you would open up your account with to allow this?
Yeah. Basically, you need to find a custodian. So, for example, like Fidelity, Vanguard, those are custodians, but they only deal in the business of stocks and mutual funds.
Right.
So that's what they want you to believe is the only thing you can invest in.
Sure.
But you have other companies, other custodians that do allow for self-directed IRAs, which allow you to invest in so-called alternative investments such as notes, tax liens, and you can actually even own real estate inside of your self-directed IRA.
Gotcha. What's the best way to find those companies?
You can do a quick search for self-directed IRAs. There are plenty of different companies. I personally use Equity Trust.
Yeah.
I don't think they're the greatest, but I've done enough deals with them now that I pretty much know the ins and outs of all their paperwork. So where a beginner might come into a snag, I kind of know what they're asking for on their paperwork. Their paperwork isn't the clearest, and I've actually submitted suggestions to them as to how they could better
Nice.
set up their paperwork, but you know, they're not going to listen to me.
No, of course. Okay, so that's great. Let's see. So we talked about kind of getting started. We talked about how to open these accounts and where to find deals. What am I missing here? I'm not going to really cover the math here. I think there's plenty of material both on BiggerPockets and elsewhere that goes into that. But I think folks watching want to know maybe what are the different type of note investments there are, because I know beyond simply just buying a note, there's some folks who buy notes. They want these notes to foreclose, right? There's others who don't.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So there are many different ways to get involved in the note business or buying notes. So as an investor, you can make your money one of several ways. You can make your money like I do, buy it for a certain yield, and just sit back and collect payments.
Sure.
That's really all I do. I don't want to have to deal with foreclosure. I don't have time for that. I've got my own business I run during the day, so I'm just looking to know that this much money I've set aside to buy this particular note I'm making 12, 15, 18% on.
Sure.
There are other people who buy non-performing notes as a means to ultimately own the property via foreclosure. That's a very, very popular strategy in this market.
Yep.
There are also people who buy sub-performing paper at significant discounts and then turn around and work with the payers on loan modifications.
Gotcha.
And make their money that way. So I've done that a couple of times, and because I am the bank in those instances, a loan modification literally takes me 20 minutes to pull off, as opposed to the 6 months plus that you hear out there.
Sure.
A loan modification literally has taken me 20 minutes, where I'm just like, okay, these are your new terms. Do you agree to them?
Yeah.
And the payer says, yes, I agree to them.
Yeah. Okay,
sign it. Done.
Yeah. That's great. Okay, so we've got these different strategies. What would you advise a newbie? I mean, somebody who's fresh off, ready to jump in and says, this sounds really interesting. I don't want to deal with physical property for the most part. Dealing with the note side is more interesting to me. I've got other things going on. I don't need to flip houses or buy and hold. Do you recommend going the route of the subprime, not subprime,
subperforming?
Subperforming, thank you. Subperforming, or would you go with performing, or?
Well, the safest is always going to be performing.
Yeah.
And then to that next level of safety, if that's what you're looking for, I would say you want performing local paper that you can check up on.
Yeah.
In my case, I buy paper nationwide. I'm not scared because I do all my due diligence, and I can buy paper in other parts of the country and have checks in place so that if anything comes up, things get taken care of.
Yeah.
But for the absolute beginner, I would say maybe look at trying to find local paper that is discounted so that you can perform your due diligence that way, or within your state.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is maybe having some exposure in hard money deals will get you exposed to the paperwork process.
Okay.
That would also be something I would recommend. Although the mentality and the business model of a hard money lender is quite a bit different than a discounted note buyer, but you're still operating in the same medium.
Yeah.
I would say that would be a good place to possibly start, just because your money is not out there for so long. Typically, a hard money deal is a 4 to 6 month max deal.
Yeah. Due diligence, really quickly. Let's kind of breeze through it. What would be kind of the key steps for you? Yeah, without going into too much detail in terms of doing your due diligence and determining if a note, the status of a note.
Okay, so, well, basically there are 3 aspects to buying paper. The first is the actual paper itself. So you're going to do your due diligence to make sure that the note itself is enforceable, that you're not violating the state's usury laws.
Okay.
Another thing to think about is that if a note was created after the passing of the SAFE Act, whether or not a proper broker, mortgage broker, was involved on the HUD-1.
Okay.
Then you actually have the payer themselves. It's basic underwriting.
Yeah.
You're going to pull credit. You're going to do income verification, and you want to make sure that the ratio of their mortgage to their income is something that's doable.
Yeah.
And then with regards to the property itself, you want to look at the property and the deal. So the property is taken care of simply by appraisal. If you're buying a $100,000 note,
yeah,
you want to make sure that there's enough equity in the house if the house is worth, say, $150.
Sure.
You don't want to buy a $100,000 note on a $100,000 house.
Right.
Right. And then when I talk about the deal, I'm talking about whether an appropriate down payment was taken, if everything was, the title's clean, and all those other types of things that go in a typical real estate transaction.
Gotcha. Great. Well, listen, I mean, that's definitely valuable. I think we've covered a lot here. It's kind of like the 101 of note investing. Kind of broad strokes without digging too deep. Is there anything, before we wrap it up, is there anything that you kind of want to talk about in reference to notes, or I think we've done a pretty decent job.
Well, I think the industry itself is constantly striving for change and improvement, which I'm obviously a big fan of.
Yeah.
And I think with lending, at least bank lending, being so hard right now,
yeah,
so difficult, I really feel like seller financing is going to be a huge way of getting deals done over the next probably 2 to 5 years.
Yeah.
And not all of them, but a small percentage of them are ultimately going to be, hey, I need to sell this note. So I think, if you're a person who's got some cash, whether it's in your bank account or in a self-directed IRA or a self-directed 401k,
yeah,
I think buying discounted paper is a great way to is going to be a great investment strategy to partake in.
And I know we didn't cover it, but there are things called partial notes where somebody who may only have a couple $1,000 could potentially get in on a partial note, right? I mean, you don't have to be sitting on a cash pile of $100,000.
Oh yeah, no. It's very. I mean, it can be done. You obviously have to work with someone that you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
But for example, I have some relatives that only had $10,000-$15,000 to invest.
Yeah.
And basically, what you can do is put the money together and then each person will buy what's called X% undivided interest. So basically, if you had 4 people that each chipped in $20,000 to buy an $80,000 note,
yeah,
the way the titling would be assigned on the assignment, it would read Joe, Sue, Tom, David, each with a 25% undivided interest in this note.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
nice.
it can be done.
Right. We're chopping it up a little bit. Chopping it up, right? Nice. Well, great, man. Well, listen, so Loc likes to hang out on BP, on the Bigger Pockets forum. So if you guys have any more questions, you definitely hit him up there. His profile is biggerpockets.com/users/solid-returns. You on Twitter, Google +1, Google Plus, or Facebook? Anywhere else that you like to connect with people?
I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn.
Facebook and LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Look them up. Loc, it's been great. I think very, very valuable. I know for me, you've been extremely valuable over the past year or so since I really started looking into notes, and I think this is going to be fantastic for a lot of people. So thank you so much, and perhaps we can do note investing 201 and 301 and 401 down the line.
No problem. I'll be more than happy to participate.
Hey man, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Okay, thanks for having me.